Hello everybody, thanks for tuning in. You know, it's really easy to come on and make video after video bitching about the system without offering any kind of fix. And in this video, I want to attempt to offer such a fix. How we can fix our government system, how we can fix the system to where it benefits the people and not just the elite who run the system. Now, with any new plan, it is never perfect. And it's going to be the same with my plan. There will need to be tweaks, adjustments, changes along the way as we see loopholes and fixes needed. What I would like to do is implement a system where each state is competing for people to live in their state. Very much like a business would compete for customers. You run your business into the ground, the doors and windows are boarded up. It's just that simple. The first thing I would do in my plan, and again, I'm going to repeat it, it is not a perfect plan at first. It's almost like a living document. It will need to be changed until it works like a fine-oiled machine. I would return 95% of all decision making and powers back to the states from the federal government. The federal government would be primarily responsible for just three things. One, its primary function would be to defend us from foreign nations. It would also retain diplomats because we're going to need diplomatic relationships and to be able to keep the peace. It's not enough to prop up a missile and call that a defense system. They would also retain and keep a Supreme Court because it would be mandated that every state still follow the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And we're going to need that Supreme Court so people do not fall between the cracks and have a place to go and be heard when their rights are infringed upon. The third and final thing the federal government would be responsible for is to make sure that our right, and this is key, because when you hear the rest of my plan, you're going to see why it's key in order to maintain competition. The federal government will make sure that although the states have 95% of their power and decision making back, part of the Constitution would be, part of the Bill of Rights maybe, would be to maintain, keep our right to travel from city to city, from state to state, on our own free will whenever we want, just like we do now. It is key that that right is still maintained. The federal government would collect no taxes above and beyond their responsibilities. I never did see the logic of collecting taxes from the states only to possibly return them back to the states in the disguise of maybe federal funding or tax refunds. To me, that sounds like a little bit about skimming off the top, maybe collecting it, and you got to pay them for their collection fees and their IRS and all that other good stuff, their accountants, and then they give it back to you in maybe a form of a tax refund. To me, it sounds a little bit like money laundering or something like that, or skimming off the top type of scheme. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand these federal taxes are used to go to defense. They're used to pay down our federal debt. I'm not naive to that, but things will change upon my plan. Getting to the states, each state would have their decision-making back, their powers back. They would not be held hostage by the federal government and do the bidding of federal government. Each state would operate individually, independently. If they want to run it into the ground, that's up to them. There'll be no federal funding, no bailout from the federal government if they choose to run it into the ground. You want to be a sanctuary state. You want to be a welfare state. That's all on you. People who want that can move there. People who don't want that can move somewhere else. Once that state is not collecting enough tax revenue to keep itself sustained, that state collapses just like a business. It becomes a national park, a wilderness. Boom. That's it. These states would not act like different countries. After all, they are following our Constitution and Bill of Rights. They can all have the same damn restaurants if they want, or they can have independent restaurants, or whatever they want. It's all on them to make the environment. And they would be pressured to make that environment within that state palpable to the people who live there. If not, the people are going to leave. There would be a competition to keep you where you're at. Final thing I would do is dissolve the Federal Reserve. The word federal does not imply it has anything to do with our federal government. The Federal Reserve is not part of the federal government. The only people the Federal Reserve benefits are the people hiding in the shadows behind the scenes who really run this world, who own those banks. It is a vampiristic system that bleeds off of the people that it claims to be servicing. The states would have the option, making their own monetary system. They can have whatever they decide. They can get together and make a whole new system. Whatever they decide, the power is in their hands. If they want, they can have the individual dollar bills, or a money system. I wouldn't recommend it, but that's again on them. I know this is not a perfect system, but I believe it is a good baseline, a good start in the right direction. And a lot of you folks would say, well, they're just going to buy their votes again with free stuff. No, when the people who are actually paying the taxes and moving into another state away from your state, and you're not collecting enough tax revenue to sustain yourself, it will automatically correct those governments and put them on a path. They will automatically, just for the sake of survival, that instinct to survive, they will actually put their own selves on a path of sustainability. Once they see that the only people who are there are the ones that get freebies and not paying any taxes, they'll change their system. So I think it's also a self-corrective system. When all their taxpayers are leaving and going to a more conservative state, or whatever state they desire to go to, I think it's a system where it is an auto-correction system, where it forces the state governments to go towards a path of sustainability. And I'm not talking career-wise. I'm talking to keep the state from closing its doors, metaphorically speaking, and becoming a national park or a wilderness. Because that's what would happen if I was boss. Again, this is not a perfect system. There would need to be changes made. Problems will come up. Unexpected problems and issues would come up that would need to be addressed and fixed. And this is where I need your help. My plan is not perfect, but I appreciate if you can leave a comment below that would build upon this plan, that would fix this system, this government system. I am not anti-government. And those so you can take a look at all my videos. I never preach anti-government. I think people do need to be governed. I think people left unchecked become unlawful. For the most part, they do. We need government in our lives, but we need a different system, a different government system. You know, the states would run their own elections just like normal. They would, just like back in the days of Lincoln, we would elect people into the federal government and whatnot. Things like that. The skeleton of the voting system would probably be retained mostly. Anyway, folks, again, I appreciate a thumbs up. That's that little icon that looks just like that thumb. Give me an idea below. Leave me an idea. Let's keep this on the friendly level. This is you know, this is just to get us to think and get us to talk. Again, I appreciate you as always watching my videos, and look forward to seeing your comments. Take care.